cool. So Bitcoin sucks. This is real money.
Yes.
I want the $10 trillion revolution. Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe, all the way. We just have to have faith.
Wow, it's like what is it? 10 trillion
Yeah.
of Zimbabwe trina.
I think I have 100 trillion. My bill is a different color, so it must be...
More or less.
I think
more.
It must be more.
More trillions of
More
Zimbabwe.
trillions, yeah. I have it framed.
Beautiful.
This is my new friend from Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Thanks.
He's the radical here, I guess. So I was naturally drawn. I don't know what the quality. There's a quality here that you walk into the embassy and you right away feel a little bit inspired. In Tel Aviv, I find everyone is very passionate and in different ways, which is fine. Yeah, it's so multifaceted. You have the introverted coders, and they see something in Bitcoin that the artists don't see. And then you have the artists that see something in Bitcoin that the radicals and activists don't see. And some people see the whole picture, and that's the most rare thing. And nobody's wrong, and nobody's right.
I agree.
And it can be everything. It can be just one thing for you and two things for me, and macro and micro for anybody, that however you want to interpret it. And the only problem is when we start to impose our wills onto this very new system, because it's not true that it's impenetrable. It isn't. It's still very young, and a lot of forces are acting on it. And I don't think Bitcoin can be wiped off the face of the earth. That's obviously untrue, but it can be absorbed into our systems. It can be changed. It can be forked in a direction that's unfavorable to a lot of people and favorable to others.
What do you think about the Forky, XT, Mikey, Gavin thing?
Gavin and Mike Hearn are fascists.
That's the camera then.
That's fine. Actually, Gavin, a few years ago in a Google Plus chat, literally said, I'm okay with them putting a gold star on my chest as long as I can still code and work in Bitcoin. It was a very nice Holocaust reference, and he basically said, I will be an obedient little boy as long as I can still code. And I don't even think he realized what he said, because he's so close-minded about the powers at play here, and I think he's so spineless and malleable. He allows people to mold the direction of his opinion. That's what I think of him. Then there's people like, everybody. It's funny. Everybody who we think Satoshi is, out of the core devs, seems to be not in favor of the block size increase. And
Who? Zabo and?
Luke Jr.
At the back.
Yeah.
Some people.
Yeah. So I tend to side with people like Peter Todd on this. I think he actually thinks things through. I know people see him as an instigator and as a negative Nancy, but I think we need that because we need the hard realism and the dissection of people's intentions. Because I don't care how many times Gavin says this isn't political and I'm apolitical and this has nothing to do with politics. That's the most naive thing that I've ever heard in my life. Bitcoin is the most political thing to come about since the freaking printing press. Okay, it's very political. It's freedom of speech. It's freedom of economies. It's personal freedom, but only if we allow it to. And right now, people don't. The people that get it might go against that to serve certain interests, and the other people who get it really get it and push for Bitcoin's ethos to stay pure. And then there's people like, well, we've already mentioned them, who don't want to acknowledge the political truths that are happening, or have an incentive not to acknowledge it, because it's easier to push an agenda when you claim that you don't have one.
First of all, I'm a Bitcoin evangelist more than anything else. So I do believe that Bitcoin is very, very, very strong, although it's young. I believe that the checks and balances of Bitcoin are very, very, very strong. Not from this world, even. And they're lying about thousands of different checks and balances. So I believe that if Mike and Gavin will win this size block or XT or whatever, I believe that Bitcoin will prevail. I believe that it will win anyway. For me, it's like magic to see people from all around the world becoming in a short while to a community that have more in common sometimes than they have with their own community back home or their own city or their own country. I think that there are a lot more of checks and balances. The English is a little bit difficult for me. Not a little bit, like it's making me saying 1/30 from what I want to say. But it's everywhere. I think I'm not talking now only about the fork, that if it will be, or the block size. I think first of all that it have inside so many intrinsic or inherent properties, qualities, that it's unbelievable. And every one of them is a very, very strong check and balances at itself. Let's take the way Bitcoin bribing people and will. It exists 6 years. It started from nothing. It didn't worth anything. It was a couple of mathematical and computer nuts that doing some mumbo jumbo in the computer, and then you can 2010 or I don't know what, you could buy with 10,000 Bitcoin for $50, and it started going more and more. The way that Bitcoin built, she's very, very rare, and the way the economy and the world is built right now, there's debt about Fonzie and debt, and the Tower of Babel. Together with the Snowdens in the world and together with the more information to the world, I cannot see what force or what can stop Bitcoin.
You know, the ledger is always going to exist. The technology will always exist. Bitcoin specifically could be made to be different. Worse, it could be absorbed into our current systems. It could become a more efficient way to do, you know, to send money to each other, to transfer
euro
wealth.
and dollars.
A layer on
Yeah,
top of the dollar.
exactly. It could be very beneficial for banks, for governments, if they choose to use it. But with that, and I'm fine, everybody can use it, that's fine. But what tends to happen when something becomes this big and when the Eye of Sauron gets turned onto it is you get the regulations and you get the the blacklists, and more dangerously, the whitelists. And if you have centralized pooling of mining pools for Bitcoin, it's very easy for governments to say, well, this is the whitelist of all the addresses that you can approve blocks from. What are we going to do then? Then your transactions aren't going to be approved in those areas. Bitcoin will be limited to certain geographic areas. It has no country, has no president, but those things still exist. And if they want to, they can make things very problematic for the way that we envision Bitcoin becoming.
It's already very problematic. They're already fighting.
Exactly. They already have regulation. They already want to tax it. And of course, it's hard. It's hard for them to do it. It will be, but we can make it easy for them by being compliant and putting a star on our chest complacently. So this is all up to us, And you look this. We're talking. Yesterday was July 4th, Independence Day in America, and that's when a bunch of radical, crazy criminals got together and said, well, fuck you, England. We're not going to pay your taxes. We're not going to be under your thumb. We're going to be our own country. We're going to do our own thing. And that was great for a while. People will contest that, but it was better than it is now, because America became not only just the same as every other oppressive system in the world, but 15 times more over, contributing to the oppression of hundreds of other countries. I don't want Bitcoin to become that. I mean, I think it's a very, it's not a modest parallel to draw.
But you don't want it to be.
I think it's important to learn from history. I think it's important not to fold our arms and be, oh, well, Bitcoin's a honey badger, everything will be okay, it's just one regulation, it's only this thick, it'll be okay.
Sorry, I think that Bitcoin is a honey badger, and 100 times more. It's not that, okay, one regulation and that stuff. I don't think that there is something that really can stop it or can really ruin it.
Do you think it can be very different, though? It can become very different in
be.
serving other people.
It's developing. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin is developing.
Well, yeah, but do you think it could go in a more negative way?
It will go in a very negative way. In some parts of it, I see Bitcoin as everything will be on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will be in everything, the blockchain. And of course, there are crime on iPhones and on Ford Mustangs. There will be bad things that on crimes and other stuff on Bitcoin and with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about Big Brother, the country, exploding Bitcoin to her own benefit, and we are staying slaves. I don't see it, how it happened. In all my scenarios, Bitcoin will destroy it. It doesn't matter, the government and the country will take Bitcoin from the front door, from the back door, from the chimney, from the windows, from the gutters. Bitcoin cannot be tamed. There will be blacklist and whitelist and whatever of the states, of the imperial or whatever. People will go to zero cash or to Litecoin or to market or I'm not worried about that.
If those technologies have more time to develop, I think. But I do agree with you. I don't think it's going to be Big Brother or the governments right now. I don't think that's what's going to squash anything. I think they're a little bit busy with their own economic collapses and wars, and I think they don't see it as much of they don't understand quite as much as we do what it entails. What I'm most worried about, it's people like Gavin and Mike Hearn and the core devs that
that's
maybe
going for big money and big companies and want to make Bitcoin, want to make Bitcoin change it towards this big money.
Exactly, because the way you hurt something is internally. Really, it's hard to and you see this from America. You have the assassinations from the inside.
Satoshi Nakamoto sitting outside of this discussion while he thinks that it can ruin his Bitcoin? I don't see him do that. I think that
I think he's worried because
I don't think so.
I think he's probably worried about what's happening.
So. I don't think so at all.
No?
I think that if he would feel that this thing to go Gav way or the other way, to go with the miner with China or with the economic power of the West, either or whatever will happen can put Bitcoin on risk, or really risk of a disaster, he would say something. I think that the
profit will come back.
Of the market, the market forces doing what they should do. Mm-hmm. There are people here that saying this, and people here that saying that, and people that want to make it fork, and people want to compromise, and I don't see in any way. Doesn't matter what will happen, if it will go to stay 1 M block or 500 M block. I don't see a danger, a real danger to Bitcoin on the long term. I see Bitcoin is the only constant, and I'm shouting it in Hebrew in Facebook and other places all day long. But I think that we will adjust ourselves to everything in Bitcoin. So, sorry that I'm saying I'm not seeing it as someone going to kidnap Bitcoin from the people and give it to the rich. Bitcoin will have some kind of code, and people will adapt to it, and I don't see it as such kind of a danger. Of course not when you have the alts market of dozens of 10,000s of new after Bitcoin currencies that came, and they offering also, it's a very important, one of the most important checks and balances of Bitcoin is the alts market, because it gives some kind of alternative to Bitcoin. It says, wow, you're going to charge us to buy in China equipment of $5,000 just to have a node or just to do mining, so we can do lighting, Litecoin. So it's
at the same time, if let's say Bitcoin disappears today, let's say it just disappears. I know it won't happen, but magical.
Yeah.
Ching. I think the alt market will have a very difficult time. I think it would stagnate, and I think it would take, much longer for it to be adopted on a mass scale without the push from Bitcoin.
99.9% of the alt market is nothing. It's nothing by nothing.
Yeah.
But of course, and it all depends on the big mama, on the big ship, the big sister Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that the fact that we have the alt market, and we have Next, and we have XCP, and we have Litecoin, and we have Dogecoin, and we have other, it's
like a marker for the success.
It's not only a market, it's giving, it's also put to the Bitcoin, the one that are in the top, Gavin and others, they are deciding about what Bitcoin will be, what the code will be, and other, who will own it. It's give them
like a reference
alternative.
point.
It's showing them if you will go against the freedom and the decentralization of Bitcoin and other things, people will buy and go and mine Litecoin and not Bitcoin.
I think Satoshi left Gavin the keys because Satoshi saw Gavin as a jellyfish and somebody that doesn't pose any threat. He didn't want someone like going off, on a power trip. And he was right to an extent, but it also backfired because Gavin's a jellyfish from any direction, not just from Satoshi.
Satoshi think that what Gavin doing to Bitcoin, taking Bitcoin through, is very, very, very bad, he would say something.
He stopped saying anything after that.
I know.
I think he's very aware of the danger he's in if people find out who he is. And I think there is an active search for who he is.
Everybody says search and want to know who
Yeah.
is Satoshi. I'm just saying that.
I don't think he would say anything. I think he's
after they
very calculated,
after they
in the shadows.
find in California Dorian Nakamoto, he tweet in one of his accounts that I am not Dorian Nakamoto. People do not show that it's Satoshi did it, but.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not only that. It's not like I really believe that if Satoshi thought it is dangerous to Bitcoin, he would say something. But it's not only that. I think that Bitcoin will find its way.
What's happening in the world today is the same thing that's been happening in the world for decades and decades, and it's a little bit boring by now. And I'd like to see change, actual change. That's a loaded word. I'd like to see change in the way we interact globally with information and finances. And we had that change with the internet. And, we can't decide whether it was good or bad. I think both, and that's fine. But now we need to see that economic change because the systems have been cyclical and devastating.
All humanity is suffering from one thing only, from governments, from countries. Let's forget about governments. Countries and banks exploiting all the human race using money, using dollar. Banks and countries are mathematical devils that destroying humanity, raping, robbing, stealing from humanity, and it can't be any different because the governments of the countries, the office, the salaries, the pensions are huge. It's billion by billion by billion by billion, and we don't need them. They need us. They have to have slaves to be a country, to be a regime, to be 1984. But we don't need them, of course. Not only that we do not need them, we have Bitcoin now. That we can and will replace banks, money, and countries.
Yeah, I want everyone to realize that. But thinking makes you depressed. So most people just don't do it. Bitcoin will limit how much permission we have to ask. And that's an incredibly freeing thing. And I mean, we like to say, oh, government is bad, government is this, government is that. There's been psychological and scientific studies that show that the more oppressed people are by governments and the more the more they feel like they're slaves and they don't have a choice, it literally gives you sickness and cancer and chronic disease. And they can measure a person's health relative to how free they are. So the governments are not only financially killing us, they're emotionally, psychologically, and physically, literally killing us. And if we can, chip away at how much control they have, and our finances are a huge part of that, that's actually revolutionary. That's what's revolutionary. Not preaching politicians full of crap and words that mean nothing, but a technology that can actually be utilized for people's personal empowerment. The problem is everyone's unhappy, everyone's depressed. Now there's people who acknowledge that they're depressed and unhappy and acknowledge why, and that's a reality, and they either do something about it, or they pretend that they're happy. They drink their beer, they go to their concerts, they obsess about music and their social structures and their job in an office. And they come home at the end of the day and they have a nice house or an apartment, and they have a nice boyfriend and girlfriend, and they eat well. We eat very well in the West. And it's okay, everyone's happy, and then you watch TV or the news and you're told like, oh, positivity and always smile and everything is great and visualize what you want and you will get it. And it's all 100% crap. And I think people should realize that it's okay to be angry and you should be angry. It's okay to be upset and you should be upset. And it's okay to be depressed and you should be depressed. And you shouldn't bury those feelings. You should act on those feelings. Are you angry with the world?
Very.
Yeah, that's why we click. It's okay. It's okay to be angry. People should be angry.
I agree.
People should be very angry.
I agree.
It's a good feeling.
It's a just feeling. The way we are now, as I see it, we are slaves to banks and countries. This is the only problem. Take out of the world now banks and countries and everything will work fine. You can be socialist, you can be capitalist, you can be Tom Friedman, you can be Bernanke, it doesn't matter. Take out countries, banks and money, everything is working fine. Garden of Eden. I have no doubt about it.
Fiat money, their money.
Fiat money,
yeah, their
yes,
money.
Of course. Money that have interest debt forever on humanity, and money that bank.
But how will we buy our Starbucks?
Not with
If you have to buy
They're
a
not
Starbucks,
accepting Bitcoin
if
yet.
you have, they will accept Doggy and Litecoin and everything. Bitcoin, of course.